7 o'clock, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. Just a reminder to our school board members, those people that are in the room, in the audience, or watching live stream, this is our annual reorganization meeting, and momentarily we'll be electing our school board officers. But until that time, I'll preside over the meeting, and I guess the next thing we should do is notice the meeting. This is a public meeting of the school of the Mukwonago Area School District School Board. It's been properly posted and is subject to the open meeting laws of the state of Wisconsin. Next, we'll do a moment of silence. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we'll do roll call. Crosby Bugenhagen.
Here.
Erica Connor.
Here.
Jake Hilgenthal.
Here.
Gail Lesage. Dale Porter. Here. Vito Schwartz.
Here.
Carolyn Simon.
Here.
Craig Vertz.
Here.
Cherry Winchowski. Here. And then our student reps, Diego. Here. And Madeline.
Here.
All right, then we'll move into the election of board officers. Let me just get my notes here. So we'll start with the election of the board president. And then after we elect the president, then I'll be done presiding over the meeting, and then the president will take over for the rest of the meeting. Okay? So we'll start by taking nominations for the president, and anyone on the school board can nominate another board member for president. They can also nominate themselves. You do not have to have a second for a nomination. You do need to have a majority of votes of board members present. So we have 9 board members tonight. Thus, if you want to be elected president, you have to have at least 5 votes. So I'll ask for nominations. I'll ask 3 times. And then we'll close nominations after that. Okay, so I'll start by asking for nominations for school board president.
Can I nominate Dale Porter?
Okay, we have a nomination for Dale Porter. Typically, we do ask the board member if they're willing to serve in that position. So, Dale, are you willing to serve in that position?
Yes.
Okay, so do we have any other nominations for school board president?
I nominate Erica Connor.
Okay, Erica, are you willing to serve as school board president?
Yes.
All right, I'll ask for any other nominations for school board president? Any other nominations for school board president? I'll ask one more time. Any other nominations for school board president? Okay, if not, then we'll take a vote. Now, this is the one time that you can have a secret ballot vote. So this is the one and only time that you can do that on the school board. And the way you do that, one board member would have to request that. If not, then we'll ask for those who are in favor, and we'll have you raise your hand, of Dale Porter serving as school board president. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, 7. And those in favor of Erica Connor as board president? You got 1. Erica is abstaining?
I'm abstaining, yep.
Okay, got it. All right, so with 7 to 1 vote, Dale Porter is the school board president, and then I'll turn it over to you, Dale.
All right, next we are looking for vice president nominations.
I'd like to nominate Craig Verts for vice president.
You don't have a chair. I'm asking you to raise your hands, everybody from now on, to raise your hands so we're not talking over each other. So I'll just ask again, we're looking for nominations for vice president. Do we have any nominations? Carolyn,
I'd like to nominate Craig Verts as vice president.
do we have any other nominations? Oh, I'm sorry. Craig, do you accept?
I will.
Do we have any other nominations?
I nominate Erica if she'd be willing to do it, because we need someone with experience to be helpful.
Erica, do you accept?
Yes.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? All right. I think we should take it to a vote. A hand vote, I think, would be okay. Everybody raise their hand who are in favor of Craig Verts being vice president.
It's 5.
5. All in favor of Erica being vice president? We have 4.
4.
Congratulations, Craig Verts. What's that?
It was 4.
Who voted for Craig? Who were the hands there?
Oh, for Craig.
1, 2, 3, so you got 4 there, right?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
There we go, my bad, I apologize.
He's a money guy.
Next up, we are looking for nominations for clerk. Do we have any nominations?
I will nominate Cherry Winchowski.
Jerry, do you accept?
I do.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? All in favor of Cherry being the clerk, raise your hand, please.
You abstain? So 8.
It is. Congratulations, Cherry. Now we're looking for nominations for treasurer. Do we have any nominations? I'd like to nominate Jake Heilingenthal. Do you accept?
Yes.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? All right, all in favor of Jake being the treasurer, raise your hand, please. Jake abstaining?
Yes.
8, and Jake abstained.
All the nominating yourself for that job, that's a great job.
Thank you.
Yes.
Next on the agenda is citizens' comments, and we have 2. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading this. Mark Penscover. Come on up.
No.
All right, thank you for allowing me to speak here tonight. I just got a handful of comments. My name is Mark Penscover. I live here in the village of Mukwonago. My wife was born and raised here and is a 1987 graduate of the Mukwonago High School. We raised our 4 children here over the past 25 years, and we're really proud, as a lot of us are, to be part of this community. First, I want to congratulate the board on selecting Joseph Cook as our new superintendent last November. Best wishes to Dr. Cook and the board when he assumes his duties later this summer. Also, I wanted to convey my sincerest appreciation to Sean McNulty for your 30 years of devoted and dedicated service to our district, including last 10 as superintendent. Sean, you're leaving behind a great legacy, teaching and caring for our children. I thank you for all that you've done, and best wishes to you and your family. You bet. Also want to take a opportunity to thank the district staff, teachers, and the school board for fostering a supportive, inclusive, and safe learning environment for our children, the children entrusted to your care. School district has a lot to be proud of, but we need to continue to allocate the necessary resources to retain our talented staff and recruit new talent. I also want to thank all of you that have served on the board for your service. Having served on the village board and the library board and plan commission for many, many years, I know that these appointments can be thankless at times, but I also know they're very, very important. So thank you for your time. The past 2 years in particular have been very, very challenging, to say the least. And I want to thank you for your time and effort guiding the school district through rough waters. Finally, for those that are new to the board, I want to, and those that continue serving on the board, just want to encourage you to keep focusing on the educational needs of the children and not get distracted by what we've seen out there as silly, often non-existent outrage issues that other school boards in Wisconsin and throughout the country have struggled with recently.
Mark, 15 seconds.
That's all I have to say. Thank you very much, and good luck to all of you.
Thank you. Next up is Andrea Cooper.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I don't know if that sounds loud to you, but it sounds loud to me. A request to all members of the board, both incumbent and newly elected. I urge you to fully consider the bylaws of the organization of which you are now a part. The school board is a non-political, non-partisan governing body. It exists, and I quote, to implement statutory regulations dealing with public education and for meeting the needs, or the desires, of residents. Please note, this does not mean only meeting the desires of those residents that have the same opinion as you. Our community is full of people on both sides of all kinds of issues. As a board member, it is your job to understand and listen to people from both sides in order to make nonpartisan decisions. The school board is by definition not a place to push a political agenda or take a stand. It is not a place to shout or grandstand. Our school district, in particular, has always been extremely transparent in any way possible. Since I began coming to school board meetings 8 years ago, any question I've asked, concern I have raised, has been addressed respectfully and transparently. I implore you to focus, as was just commented on, not on the noise of the outside, but the reality of our school district, Mukwonago. The issues that are causing a stir in communities around the nation simply are not present here. The school board has, again I quote, a social responsibility toward all who look to the schools as centers for growth and development for children, youth, and adults, as well as a moral and ethical responsibility to function courageously and impartially. This includes making informed decisions based on careful thought and open-minded conversation with a variety of stakeholders, including staff at any or all of our many schools. Only if you are willing to put in this effort can you hope to effectively fulfill the position you now hold. The students and staff of this district rely on an informed and thoughtful board that is willing to engage in discussions with people of various sides of issues to ensure that our district continues to move forward, not backward, each year better than the last for all of our students and all of our staff.
Thank you. Next up, we have presentations. Student rep report.
Brilliant. Yeah, so just want to apologize ahead of time. This turned out to be a rather long report, so just kind of stick with us, okay? Sorry about that.
Lots of good things to share.
Yeah, no, it's good. There are good things happening in the district, but I understand that it can kind of drag on, but we'll get there. So we're going to begin with Section Elementary. On Thursday, April 6th, the STEAM Museum came to Section for a day of STEAM-related activities for the kindergarten through 6th grade students to participate in. The STEAM Museum turned the Kids Cafe into a state-of-the-art, hands-on children's museum focused on science, technology, engineering, arts, and math education. During their visit to the STEAM Museum, students interacted with a variety of activities including robots, VR, 3D printing, art, engineering, and more.
Over at Prairie View Elementary, students from PVES got a tour of Culver's in Mukwonago this past Friday. They were able to learn how to make custard, lemon ice, french fries, cheese curds, chicken tenders, and buttered burgers. So a big shout out to Ashley Landon from Culver's Mukwonago for being so welcoming to the students and teaching everyone about what goes on back there. Prairie View is hosting its monthly PBIS assemblies this year and are focused on a variety of character traits. In the month of April, we focused on having perseverance power. Students learned what it meant to persevere through challenges and continue to push forth effort. There are some pictures that are in there from the 3rd grade students that led the assembly. And then Prairie View has held its annual art show this year on Monday, April 20th. There's a video linked in the report for a sneak peek at the talent of the students.
At Rolling Hills, they would like to congratulate their Kiwanis 6th grade students of the year, Blake Brashay, Kennedy Garner, and Clayton Kempinski, on the recognition for this year's honor. 3rd grade students participated in a lesson as part of their social studies unit on manufacturing and production with their very own jelly bean bunny factory. Students learned very quickly that their supply chain could not keep up with the great demand for their product. Rolling Hills also kicked off this year's forward exam with an all-school assembly and reviewed great test-taking strategies. All the students were given Smarties candies and a personal note from their teacher after the assembly as recognition for all their hard work. Many students will also be participating in field trips that began this month. To name a few, 4th grade students took a trip to Madison, and 5th grade students visited BizTown, which appears to be a place where they learn about business. Oh, you know about it?
Yeah, I got to go in elementary school. It's a lot of fun. It's a great place. I know how to write checks because of that experience.
One of my friends' kids just went there.
Yeah.
Said it was amazing.
It's
Absolutely best thing they've ever done.
crazy.
Has it been nice?
Anyways,
And they said they had a fantastic experience, so.
sorry. At Mukwonago High School, the theater department performed their annual musical, this year Beauty and the Beast, and it was absolutely amazing. With entertaining numbers like Be Our Guest and Beauty and the Beast, theatergoers of all ages were thoroughly entertained with the fun and the energy that the 94 MHS students in the cast, tech crew, and musical pit brought to the stage. We've been working weekly since November and have easily put in over 150 hours each into costumes, props, scenery, makeup, sound, lights, publicity, painting, set construction, acting, choreography, and/or musicianship. There's a list with all of the members of the department that were a part of this linked in here if you're curious. So students would like to thank everyone who came out to see the shows this past weekend. Ticket sales once again broke MHS records, and we ended up with a sold-out show on Sunday, and it was an amazing senior show. So,
Yeah, so we want to say, Madeline, great job.
Yes.
Well done. Really well done. The show was fantastic. And Vito, your son, was a part of the production, and Erica, your daughter, and Cherry, granddaughter. Am I missing anyone else? I apologize. I have the, is this a playbill or a program? Playbill, or what do we call this? But it's great. Here, I'll pass it around.
Yeah, you know what it is.
Yeah. So take a look at that. But it was really an impressive show, and I'm so happy that we built that Greenwald Family Foundation PAC. What a fantastic venue for those students, 94 students who worked so hard. Last time we did Beauty and the Beast, I was the principal at Mukwonago High School, and we did not have the nicest theater. Still a great show, but not the nicest theater, and much smaller, and not a lot of audience members could be attending. Now it's much different. And so there's no doubt in my mind that every penny that we spent on that theater is well worth it.
yeah.
So great job.
I got to go see that show. So the person who got me into musical theater played Belle for that show. So it was really cool to see it once again in a new theater.
So Hannah Richardson, who's one of our teachers now
Yeah.
in Clarendon.
That's awesome.
That's super cool.
I know.
So sorry to interrupt. Keep going, guys.
No, it's good.
No, we're
Good
good.
conversation.
All right, then over at Big Bend, where are we at now? So the sixth graders started reading with their reading buddies in kindergarten and 4K. Buddies get together weekly to read books, write stories, and show off all the learning they're doing in class. They're building multi-age peer relationships and making connections with each other, which is always awesome. In their studies of Wisconsin, they made salt clay maps of the state. They can see 4 states that share a border with Wisconsin, the Mississippi, Wisconsin, and Fox Rivers. A lot of interesting details here about their clay maps. They also had some students that were able to visit the Capitol building, which is nice.
With community education, there has been a lot going on. Beth Engelking offered 2 4-week needle felting classes at Eagleville and Prairie View Elementary Schools with a total of 22 participants. Michelle Lemasters K through 2 kids have drawn a crowd, or her classes have drawn a crowd. In fact, in March she offered 2 craft classes, filling both with 48 participants total. She has also offered to expand her crafty classes, and in February started a Big Bend Craft Club for students grades 4 through 6th. Community education expects to see a busy May as there are a lot of new and exciting opportunities like cake baking and basic decoration, create and take your own cake with you, Destination Mars, glass fusing, dusty boot dancers, beginning of line dancing. So there's something for everyone. There are a number of new instructors teaching at community education as well. Riley Robertson, the music instructor at Prairie View Elementary, is offering 2 sessions of music for Baby and Me. Retired Mukwonago teacher Cheryl Wasted? Okay. Is sharing her cake decorating skills, and Terry Buchman and Dennis Roscoe are community members who will be sharing their dancing skills and NASA knowledge. So they've collaborated with Pro Healthcare, offering free information sessions as well on the Mediterranean diet, wound care, and brain health for community members.
Also, just for any of the new board members, if you aren't aware, a lot of these have the cute little names for like whatever the programs are called at the elementary schools, and to be honest, sometimes we read them and we have no idea what they are either. So if you hear it and you're confused at first, that's okay. Just wanted to throw that out there. We have to look it up too. At Parkview this past Saturday, the 8th grade singers just rocked their festival performance in Wisconsin Dells. They performed in front of judges and spent a night celebrating at the Chula Vista. This week, Parkview students learned the possibilities at their annual career day. They would like to thank over 40 presenters who shared their time and talents with their students. 8th grade students had an awesome week last week visiting Mukwonago High School as part of the transition plan. There were tour guides, and they wanted to thank the MHS students for being great hosts. They would like to congratulate Mrs. Nedesheim on her selection as the April 2023 Mukwonago Rotary Teacher of the Month. They say she's well deserving of this honor and recognition. She's a passionate champion for the physical fitness and wellness of all students. She's a great teacher, coach, advisor, and leader, and an important contributor to school culture. On April 5th, their Student Government Leadership Board received the WASC Spirit of Excellence Award at the Bucks game, and that is really awesome. Lastly, Parkview students will present the Frozen Junior on May 5th and to May 7th. The tickets are available for purchase on the Greenwald Foundation Performing Arts Center website.
Over at Eagleville, they were awarded the Sugar Maple status by Wisconsin Green and Healthy Schools, the highest level awarded by the state and was one of the school's goals for the year. In addition, Eagleville was selected as a U.S. Department of Education Green Ribbon School, so it's a huge honor because only 26 schools across the country were selected, so we're incredibly proud of the students and staff there. This month, Eagleville hosted our 2nd annual Student Maker Fair. Students were able to create any products they wanted and sell them. All students participated by making Zentangle bookmarks in library and art. Additionally, students sold maple syrup that they had tapped and boiled together from Eagleville trees. So altogether, students raised made over $1,700.
And then lastly, we have Clarendon. On April 14th, Clarendon second graders had the opportunity to visit the YMCA and learn about water safety. They learned about life jackets, boat safety, and how to help someone in need without getting in the water. The program was free for second grade students thanks to a generous donation made by a YMCA member. They would like to thank Cub Scout Pack 29, who cleaned up trash and litter around Clarendon. And lastly, I would argue the most important news, although the rest was very important, the Jackson Sparks Memorial Field had officially received the name, and it was a great day to be a part of the Mukwonago community.
All right, thank you, student reps. Next up is strategic plan update.
Actually, I think what we'll do is, if it's okay, Dale, we'll have the student government from Parkview Middle School do their presentation first, so then they can go, and then we'll have the strategic plan.
Sounds like a plan, thank you.
Yeah, so Luke Spielman, principal of Parkview Middle School, is here, and he'll introduce staff member and students that are here. Great honor that Parkview received, so they have a little more information about that.
Thanks for allowing us to speak tonight. As Sean said, I'm Luke Spielman, the proud principal at Parkview, and there's nothing I take more pride in than talking about all the wonderful things our students are doing. So we're going to spend a couple minutes tonight talking about that. At Parkview, we have roughly, if you don't know, 750 students. Out of those 750 students, about 20%, 150, are in our student government, which I think is just a crazy, awesome number that many students are interested in taking a leadership role in our school. So among that 150, we also have a smaller group that helps lead the students, our advisory board, and these are two members from that group, and they're going to speak here in a second. But we're here tonight to present or to share that we won an award. As Diego said, last month we found out that we won Wisconsin Association of Student Councils, WASC, Spirit of Excellence Award, and that is one middle school in the entire state that is chosen. And I think Sean might have shared their application materials that the students created, 29-page application material, but they were chosen based on the criteria of service, sportsmanship and positive school culture, and leadership. Before I turn it over to them, if they look a little jet-lagged, they literally just got back from Green Bay. So we had our state conference, or they had their state conference in Green Bay over the weekend and today, and just got back this afternoon. So if students or advisors look tired, that is the reason why. I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Ingrid Schultz, one of our two advisors at Parkview, Mrs. Ingrid Schultz and Chelsea Pozolinsky. And I can't say enough wonderful things about each of them and their leadership of students. These opportunities don't happen without great staff that are leading it for kids. So, Ingrid.
Thank you very much. Well, as Mr. Spielman said, the Spirit of Excellence is awarded to the top student government in the state that is able to demonstrate excellence in leadership development, sportsmanship initiatives, school spirit, and service to both the school and the community. And these students are just representative of a board and a student government that has done a phenomenal job. In addition, this weekend we went up to Green Bay at Lambeau Field, got to stay overnight there, and they competed in 5 competitions where they walked away with gold in each and every category that they competed in, which included things like speech writing, writing a persuasive piece about leadership and how it impacts people, and some other things that they have brought with to share with you. And this is the trophy that we get to keep for an entire year. So I'm going to turn it over to these lovely ladies. Yes, sorry. This is Brooklyn and Dahlia. They are our 8th graders, and they are 2 of the leaders on our student leadership board.
Oh, no, okay. So, okay, so the Spirit of Excellence was awarded to the #1 student council that demonstrated, in the state of Wisconsin, that demonstrated worthwhile and positive contributions to the community. We focused on activities such as Dude Be Nice and our coin war. Dude Be Nice was an activity that we created to encourage kindness in our school throughout the month of January.
We also did a coin war in March. That was a contest among houses, which are homerooms that we separated into groups that consisted of raising money for animal shelters in our community.
So we brought with, like we said, we brought some of the projects with, and we will leave them here, and you can peruse through them for the week. If you have any questions for these 2 lovely ladies, please feel free.
Congratulations.
How much did you raise for the animals?
We raised like $2,300 and $2,313 and like 87 cents.
Wow, that's awesome.
Tom, just paying attention to the numbers.
Yeah.
Ladies, I was wondering, you're going to move into the high school now, okay? And so,
I'm in 7th grade.
oh, they said 8th grade students. Oh, okay. What was the most important thing, with so many students in the student government, which I think is wonderful that you allow anyone who wants to be in there. What do you think is the best thing about having so many instead of maybe just having 20 like other schools might have?
You can have different opinions. Like, you don't just have two people making decisions for everybody. You can have a wider, like, people who can help make those decisions as, like, for the school and not just two people, which can be, like, I guess, like, very opinionated sometimes.
Okay, you're in 7th grade, so I'll ask you a question. What are you going to try and do next year to top this year?
Well, I definitely like got some ideas from like what we could do different, like what we could improve, and so like ways to like help raise more money and like help people not in student government really understand what we're doing and how we're helping other people and other places in our community.
Great, thank you. Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats, girls.
Great job, ladies.
Thanks, ladies.
Congrats.
One other thing, I would just like to say that Dahlia actually next year will also be on the state leadership board, not just for Parkview.
Nice. Oh, yeah. You can keep it on, Ingrid. You can hand it to these guys.
There you go.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So we are here to do a strategic update for the strategic part of the plan that involves learning for all students. So just a reminder of that part of the strategic plan, which is the Mukwonago Area School District will ensure that all students engage with meaningful learning experiences and demonstrate growth over time to ensure that all of our students are college, career, and future opportunities. Tonight, we are going to concentrate, we're veering a little bit from what we've done in the past because we are in a period of time where we don't have new test data necessarily to show you, which we normally have in these presentations if we've just been given forward exam scores or ACT scores or whatever. And so the next two presentations, this one and the next time we present, we decided to break up literacy and math and really do a concentration on that instead of trying to do it all in one night, which would mean that you're here much later than you probably already will be here. So tonight we're going to concentrate on literacy, and we specifically have the goal tonight to make sure that everyone on our board understands what is meant by the science of reading. It's gaining more and more attention in the educational world, and I think it's super important that our board understands exactly what is meant by that. We also want to make sure that you understand how we're taking advantage of what we've learned about the science of reading and what we know to be true about reading and implementing those best literacy practices in what we do on a daily basis in the district. We want to discuss a little bit supports that are in place for our teachers to continue learning and growing to make sure that instructionally we're providing everything we can for students. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how we use data in the district. Ben is here, so you know data's coming. And then a little bit about the supports that are in place when we realize that a student is not learning to read the way that we would expect them to be. So we're going to start tonight with Michelle Ziegler, our elementary education coordinator, talking a little bit about the science of reading.
All right, so learning how to read is really complicated, and go ahead and flip that. And so as educators, we're always asking, well, what is the best way to teach our students how to read? And so we turn to research. And so my job tonight is to teach you what the science of reading is, because that is what we are doing in Mukwonago to teach our students how to read. And so this infographic is from the National Center for Improving Literacy, and I just think it does a really nice job of clearly explaining what the science of reading is, and in the next slide, what it's not. And so basically, the science of reading is an ever-growing body of research that looks into the theories of how kids learn how to read and determines whether or not those strategies actually work. And so that research supports that these 5 big ideas are what should be incorporated into our classrooms if we want our students to become strong readers. And so those 5 big ideas are, phonemic awareness is the first one. So basically, it's our students' ability to hear sounds in words and to be able to manipulate those sounds. So that includes things like rhyming or having the kids break words like cat into its 3 sounds, k, at. And that helps them when they're learning how to spell and when they're learning how to read. Another big piece is phonics. And so phonics is where we take what the kids are hearing and connect that to the visual. So that's when they learn what sounds each letter makes, that certain letters when put together make different sounds. There are lots and lots of rules when it comes to phonics. And so making sure that the kids are equipped with those rules, so when they're learning how to read and when they're learning how to spell, they have the knowledge they need to be successful. The third big component is fluency. That's basically when students have the ability to automatically read words, phrases, sentences, and then longer pieces of text. And so when we're talking fluency, we're talking not only how automatic they are, but can they read with expression? Can they read with accuracy? And then the final 2 are vocabulary and comprehension. So when students are learning to read, our end goal is for them to understand what it is they're reading. And if our programs are going to be successful at that, we also have to make sure we're incorporating vocabulary. So the stronger a student's vocabulary, the easier it will be for them to comprehend the texts that they're reading. And our vocabularies are basically anything a student can read, pronounce, understand the meaning, but then also be able to use. And so those 5 big areas are the things that we need to look for when we're incorporating teaching into our reading classrooms. So the science of reading is not a program that you can purchase. It's not an intervention you can buy. And as a result, when we are looking for resources as a school district, we need to be looking for things that support those big 5 areas. And so years ago, when we were doing our literacy adoption, we piloted a program called Super Kids for our K-2 students. We piloted a couple other programs. And as we were piloting, the teachers ended up choosing Super Kids with our administration because we really felt that the program had the phonics piece that was teaching our students how to be really good decoders. So they weren't guessing, they weren't just looking at pictures, they were really reading. So that when they got to 2nd and 3rd grade and things like pictures went away, they had the skills they needed to break words apart. And so we found that through using the Super Kids as a resource, our 3rd grade teachers were telling us the kids were coming to them with stronger skills than they had before. We found that when we have students who enter our district from other school districts, that there is a huge difference in the knowledge those kids come with versus the students that we've had from the start. And so we've had to do things to catch kids up because not every district has chosen to use programs that incorporate those early phonics pieces that are so needed. And so one of the things that we've done with Super Kids is we've also looked at, well, what is missing? Because again, this is a resource, and so we found that in our teaching, the phonemic awareness piece wasn't as strong as we wanted it to be. And so what we did is we pulled in another resource called Heggerty. And Heggerty focuses very strongly on those phonemic awareness skills that kids need to be successful. We started it with a pocket of teachers, and we watched the data soar for them. And then we sat down as a group of teachers and said, if we know that research is saying that phonemic awareness is one of the best indicators to show that our students will be successful readers, then we should be encouraging that and expecting that in every single K-1 classroom. So a group of teachers, was very powerful, made that decision this summer, and so we implemented that. Every kindergarten and 1st grade classroom will teach 10 to 15 minutes of Heggerty every single day, whole group. And that has been really successful. We felt that our kids, even moving into 2nd grade, are becoming stronger spellers because they're breaking the words apart and they can hear those sounds. So that has been something that we found success with. As I mentioned earlier, the science of reading and learning how to read is complicated. One of the reasons that it's also called the science of reading is not just based off the research, but also based off of the brain-based research. So that image is an image of the left hemisphere of the brain, which is what controls our ability to read. Reading is complicated because when we're born, our brains aren't actually hardwired to be able to read. So that front part, that phonological processor, that's where our brain processes sounds. That we have intact when we're born. The back part, the orthographic processor, that's how we interpret visual things. That, again, is also present at birth. The part that we need to work on as teachers is developing the parts of the brains that are not in place at birth, which is in that phonological assembly region in the middle. And that is where the connections between where students see written letters and hear sounds, that connection takes place in that phonological assembly section. And so our job as teachers is to build that part of our students' brains by providing them with instructional experiences that will make that happen. And so we have found that using Super Kids as a resource does that, but we didn't think that was enough. We decided as a district to use ESSER funds to educate our teachers in the grades K through 2 with a program called LETTERS. And LETTERS stands for the Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling. And so this is a really intense program. I have my master's degree in reading. I also have my reading specialist license, and I am taking the LETTERS training with the teachers. It is intense. I have learned more taking this course than I did in my graduate level work, and the teachers would agree. For volume 1, it is 4 units long. Each unit has 8 lessons. In order for a teacher to advance, they have to take a quiz at the end of every lesson to be able to take the next lesson, and these quizzes are no joke. It is incredibly difficult, and the teachers were really being accountable for doing the learning. And so a huge shout out to the K2 teachers for doing an amazing job with this. We also opened it up to the rest of our teaching staff. So this year, last year, all K2 teachers were trained in volume 1. We opened it up for volume 2 for units 5 through 8. We had a lot of teachers who took that opportunity to sign up. And then we also opened it up for our upper grades teachers. And it's amazing the number of 4th, 5th grade teachers who have wanted to take this and are completely blown away with the things they are learning. And so just, it's an amazing program, but we've really committed to training our teachers. So we know that our K2 teachers have the same background knowledge, which has been really helpful. So that has been a support we put in place for teachers. In addition to that, we also know that in order for a training to be successful, we have to constantly be promoting professional development. So we have instructional coaches in every one of our elementary buildings, and they provide in-service opportunities for teachers to go to sessions where they are looking at the strategies they're learning through the coursework, but we're also then teaching them how to implement those in the classroom. So we're making sure that that transfer is happening, that we're not just doing all this learning but not doing anything with it. So those coaches have been really helpful in implementing those things in the classroom. So this slide here just goes to show the things that we are hoping that our literacy program has, and we feel that it does. An explicit systematic phonics instruction, so our teachers are teaching our students how to read very explicitly. It's systematic, so we have a scope and sequence. So we start with a progression that goes from kindergarten through 2nd grade. Engaging the strategies they're learning through LETTERS training, we are implementing into the literacy classrooms, and I have some pictures to show you in just a minute that shows the kids engaged with some of the resources we purchased. And then we've really dedicated ourselves to making sure that our universal instruction is solid so that intervention is not needed later. And then all of our instruction is based off data. So teachers are constantly making observations, looking at the assessments, and they are making changes as they see gaps. So if they see students are struggling, they adjust their instruction accordingly. This is just another representation to show how complicated reading is. That is from LETTERS training, so our teachers are being trained in all of those areas. Those ropes all represent strands that are needed in order for a student to be successful at reading, and if one of those strands is broken, we have to make sure that we're providing some sort of support to students there so they can be successful. And then I just wanted to close my portion of the presentation with showing the resources that we've provided to students so that you can see the kids in action. So through our LETTERS training, we are learning strategies to help students become stronger readers, and a lot of things are really interactive. So the kids have magnetic boards. During COVID, we had those PVC pipe barriers, and so the custodial staff has actually cut up the PVC pipes and turned them into whisper phones for us. And so the little girl in the upper left corner, she's reading, and basically what whisper phones do is they amplify the kids' voices so they can whisper quietly without disrupting kids around them, and it amplifies their voices, and it's amazing how that magically just keeps them engaged. So that's been really helpful. And so I just wanted to end with just kind of cute pictures of our kids doing learning, because we're doing amazing things, and we're really proud of our teachers and our students.
All right.
Real quick before you move on, before the data. Are we doing anything with the 4K staff that we have on as well? I'm just wondering, because I'm thinking of my little 4K with like letter decoding and sounds.
I'm actually working with Colleen Hoyne, who is the director of the 4K program. And she and I have actually purchased Heggerty for the 4K teachers. Hey. And so, and actually at the beginning of the year, I did PD with them, and I taught them also the science of reading, and we did a lot of we did basically an in-service about how they can do play-based literacy instruction. So like we broke down each of the centers and we talked about like what are the little different literacy things you can do in the home living section, what can you do in art, in science, and math. And so we've been working together on that. And then we're actually working together too to build the 4K literacy program. And so we were just together on Friday looking at resources.
Perfect.
Oh, and we're also working with a coach from CISA 6 on the 4K work. And they're working on schedules with us and the literacy resources and whatnot. So
cool. And is that through the teachers that are on our staff for 4K and at the centers, it's all the same?
It's all the same.
Doesn't matter
yes.
who it is? Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry.
As Stephanie suggested, if I'm here tonight, then there's data coming along with me. And so we have a number of what we would call literacy success indicators that we look at to try and make sure that the things that we're doing, not just at K2, but throughout our system, K12, are doing what we want them to do. And obviously, if we see that things are not working the way that we'd have goals for, then we make changes or we seek some different strategies. So I'm going to go through a couple of different data points with you today, starting pretty much from our youngest learners up through our high school students. And so we'll go through a couple of different pieces today. The first one I'm going to share with you is through our FastBridge screener. It's called the CBM Reading. This is performed with our first graders every winter and spring. It is essentially a test of listening to kids read and making sure, like Michelle mentioned earlier, that they're reading with fluency, that they're reading accurately. Research really shows that in those early grade levels, if we can get the kids pulling those words off the page correctly and accurately and at a good rate, chances are by the time they get to second, third, fourth grade, it's much more likely that they're going to be solid readers. And so you see that this data goes back to 2018 when we started using the screener. And we have a nice healthy trend line going in the positive direction there for meets benchmark. In fact, each year over year, we've seen gains. The only little blip that you see there is winter 2021. That group of first graders had their kindergarten year abbreviated due to COVID. So pretty easy explanation as far as why that data point backed off. On the flip side, our students who are high risk, that we would have really significant concerns about in first grade, that trend line is going down, which is the direction we'd want to see. We see that by the end here, we're dealing with about 5 to 6% of students in that high risk, which is really a good place to be. We want to narrow that down even a little bit further, but a lot of districts would be very, very pleased, and we're very pleased with this data here in terms of what's coming out of our kindergarten and first grade classrooms. The next data indicator I'll give you is our A reading. This is also through FastBridge, entirely different assessment tool. So don't try to compare benchmarks on this one to the one that I just shown you because they're very different tests. It's like comparing apples to oranges. This is a computer adaptive test. It's all done online. The focus on this assessment isn't so much fluency as it is more like vocabulary, comprehension. It's more of a comprehensive screener. You can see there that the trend line isn't quite as definitive going up, but that trend line is heading up for our students who are meeting benchmark. Again, you're seeing us getting to the low 80s in terms of kids meeting that proficiency. I would also point out that this is grades 2 through 6, so I don't want to lose track of that. In terms of low risk, you see that, again, a slight downward trend. That's going the direction that we want to see. And most recent data point there, winter, was under 3% of kids hitting that high risk indicator. So again, trend mark's going the way that we want to see there for sure. The next one I want to point out is Ford exam. This is the big statewide assessment administered for grades 3 through 8. Again, a couple things I want to point out with the data, complete apples to oranges versus FastBridge. One other thing I want to point out with Forward exam as well is that these are based on proficiency standards. So I hear, just like you probably do, our test scores are going down. It means that we've got 40% of kids not able to read. That part's definitely not accurate. This is based on proficiency, not can they read, but how well are they reading? How well are they comprehending? All those things that Michelle showed you in those very complex diagrams and things like that, that's what's trying to measure here in terms of this assessment. As you look at the data I'm sharing with you here, that blue is Mukwonago. That trend line is pretty flat. The reason it looks a little bit downward there is, again, you have that 2020-21 data point. It's sort of a misnomer there in that we had about 10% of our kids that didn't even take the test that year. and that was also our post-COVID year. You see that the state number definitely dropped. You wipe that anomaly out, and our trend line is at worst flat, probably creeping up a little bit. I would also point out that last spring we had our highest amount of students meet proficiency out of all of the 6 years on Ford exam, just shy of 60%. We definitely want to see that number grow, and we want to see that number get higher. But again, going the right direction, showing evidence that the things that we're doing are working. I want to contrast that to the state numbers. You can see a very sharp downward trend there, down to 37% of kids proficient across the state. So while the state is downward, we're staying flat, if not having probably a slight increase there in recent years. And so again, showing some positive indicators there for sure. Those of you that have been on the board know that I like to give context with my data too. So I've got some regional comparisons as well, so some districts that we typically look at because of similarities in their demographics, so Hamilton, Sussex, Kendall Moraine, Muskego, Norway, definitely good comps, and then some neighbors, Palmyra Eagle, Waukesha, to show sort of where we lay in the area. That dark blue line is us, the dark red line near the bottom there is the state, and then you can take a look at the different districts there. One thing I would want to point out is that you see some high achieving districts there that have had sort of that downward trend over the years, whereas we're, again, at worst flat, possibly even a little bit of an increase if you take that 21 data point out. So I don't want to name districts' names there, but you can certainly take a look at that data and see some of the different pieces in there that we're definitely holding our own. And we feel like that science of reading work that we're doing at K2, the literacy that we're doing system-wide, certainly is having an impact on that as well. Next, I want to jump over to ACT. A little bit of a different story here, as we've brought this data to you over the past. This is just the reading score. So I've brought to you the composite scores in the past. I want to just break out the reading score today. You can see that we have a bit of a downward trend going through the years. There are two data points on there that I really do want to point out as well. There's that 22.4 in 2018, which we definitely celebrated when we got that. And then there's 20.2 as a reading score in 2021. Let's go back 21, that's the post-pandemic year. We know that that closure and all of the things that impacted our district definitely had an impact on our high school students. And so, easy explanation there. The 22.4 in the moment felt like we were on the ascendancy. In retrospect, when you have the picture of several years of data, it looks like maybe an outlier the other direction. Like we had a really good cohort that year, because if you look at the other 6 data points scattered throughout, we're kind of right in that same range. Either way, the 21.1 is lower than we want to see. We definitely want to see that improve. We'll talk a little bit about that. Our composite score, though, I think it is important to point out, was 20.6. Our average composite last year was 20.6. So reading didn't bring that composite down so much. It was really the fact that, you know, the total scores we needed to improve. Reading we clearly want to see improvement with as well, but that was above that composite score. And again, context, looking at some of the other neighboring districts. Looks a little bit different. Here we have Arrowhead. We also have Waukesha West. We don't pull the entire Waukesha district in terms of comps. You can see a lot of noise on this. To be perfectly honest, you see that, you know, that downward trend that we talked about is clear there. We had a nice big bounce back last year. But you can also see we're not the only district that have seen some of the similar trends there as well. That's not to excuse that. Please don't misunderstand that. But it is to give you some context as well. Questions on any of the data before I give it over to Stephanie to round things out?
Yeah, actually, I did just want to, no, over here.
Sure.
Just want to ask a brief question about perhaps, there was a slight, you talked about the slight downward trend. We're kind of staying within the same range for ACT scores. Mm-hmm. But now, especially with a lot of state schools going test optional, do you think we're going to see a change in scores because of that, or?
Are you talking universities?
Yeah, most of the universities have gone test optional.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I do think that if the universities, not just in Wisconsin, but around the nation, really continue to de-emphasize ACT as a data tool, it's going to force DPI to make some decisions about what they use now as a junior level test. At freshman and sophomore levels this year, we're taking pre-ACT Secure for the first time. It's in that ACT family. You know, ACT has an assessment tool for pretty much everything, so maybe we move to something different. But that's a great question, Diego, and I really wish I had the answer to that.
Thank you.
That's a fantastic question.
So we have all the data that says that we're doing better than the state. Do we know why? Do we know what we're doing different than the other people? That says, all right, this is what's working, that's what's not working. Is that possible?
Yeah, I mean, I think we started the presentation talking about the science of reading and talking about how we're embracing teaching kids to read, because there's clear data that shows if a child doesn't learn to read by 3rd grade, the chances of that child learning to read down the road anywhere, I mean, it's a huge indicator to success in many ways in life. And so we really are going all in to make sure by 3rd grade that our students can read. I think that we embrace that at a time that many districts were sticking to other practices or not relying on phonics. We didn't veer away from that, and we kind of doubled down on it when we went to Super Kids as a resource. I think also that we have really, really strong intervention programs in our district. And again, we don't want to intervene our way out of a general instructional issue, but when our general instruction is good, then we're able to spend some time, more time than maybe other districts that are trying to figure out their tier 1, they're just universal instruction. We're able to spend really looking at our kids that are not learning how to read and figuring out where to go with them. So I think we've got multiple things happening that are helpful. Okay, I'm gonna keep moving then. I'd be remiss if we didn't talk finances a little bit in presentations about our data. Ben did pull the top about 20 districts and how they're performing on the state report card, just because we wanted to see just the financial implications of that. Again, I would say overall that we think we're proud of where we're landing there, but you can see that some of the districts that are performing better than us on the state report card clearly have more funding for students. I can't emphasize enough how pleased we are that the board decided to go the direction of using our ESSER funds and approving ESSER funds related to learning in our district, because we really were able to do some phenomenal literacy work in the last few years because of those ESSER funds. So we're constantly needing to think ahead as those ESSER funds expire next year if the state does not react to raising the per pupil spending for us, just how we move forward with that too. So wanted to include that just as reminders of things. So where do we move forward? So we are going to continue to put our first efforts towards a very strong tier 1 curriculum in our efforts to teach reading, which means that we are continuing to align any of our curriculum to the standards. I would say that we have some hefty work on that at the high school next year that we are hopeful that will make a difference when we move into that. Also, we're taking a look at our materials, making sure that what we're using to teach reading is vetted and has strong research behind it, and that we are looking for those places where there are gaps. Like Michelle said, it's not a program, that we're looking for the places where we have a gap in our materials and figuring out how to overcome that gap with our teachers. Coaching and professional development. So we're doing a few things next year that we hope will help us concentrate on our secondary reading scores a little bit more. We have partnered, as Michelle mentioned, in the 4K program. We've partnered with CESA 6 for a couple of things in our district. They have an incredibly strong literacy program at CESA 6. Next year, we are sending a group of 3-5 teachers to some professional development throughout the course of the year with Michelle and some of our coaches to look at how are we bringing the science of reading pieces into our 3-5 program and making sure that we have an alignment there. As our 3-5 teachers are doing letters training, they're definitely bringing things to us like, how are we thinking through this? We need to be thinking through this. So we're really going to work on that next year. In addition, we're sending a group of secondary teachers, 7-12, to CESA 6, and then they also come here and work with us here to look at struggling readers. When we have readers that have not learned to read, have lower proficiencies in 7-12, what exactly are we doing with those students, and what are we doing with the gaps that occur at that point? So we're going to be attending that and continuing to work on the letters training and implement those things. And finally, we need to focus on the essentials. One of the lowest score on our ACT is actually in the English component, which is grammar. We have not done a lot with grammar. Our English teachers would be the first one to tell you that in the last few years. So they worked very hard this year. And next year we're implementing a grammar program 9-12 that was absent in the past that we are definitely bringing back. And just making sure that we have vocabulary programs in place, that we're working on word work, going back to some of those essentials, especially at the secondary level where maybe content took over and we left some of those crucial elements behind. So continuing that tier 1 instruction is the best place that we can have strong readers in our district, no doubt. When they are not learning how to read at proficiency levels we would like, just a couple things I want to mention. First of all, we do have a full-time reading interventionist in each of our buildings now, not necessarily new to our elementary level, but new to our secondary level. And MHS, it's the first year this year that we have a full-time interventionist, and I can't tell you how important I believe that hire was and finding the funds for that hire was, because again, it's a tougher battle. It's more of an uphill battle when we have a student who reaches high school and is not reading at a level that they need to. And so that full-time interventionist has been working very hard in administration with that interventionist, and I do think we'll see some strong results from that. In addition, continuing to look at intervention materials, then the materials do matter. Making sure that all of our teachers can take a look at the data and really start to emphasize where a student might need help. You know, not just that the student's not learning to read, but where that is. So I just sat with an instructional coach last week, Friday, at the high school, who's really breaking down our ACT scores at the high school and taking a look at where students are struggling in the ACT. For instance, we know that one of our lowest scores is in key ideas or main ideas and key details. And so then what are we going to do with that at the secondary level? So we're really breaking down some of that data right now. Making sure that we're aligning our interventions with tier 1 instruction, especially at the 9-12 level. Once we have students who struggle in reading at the 9-12 level, we really do change the focus and just providing interventions and hoping that's going to work to how is it that we're modifying reading assignments at that level, because we need to keep the students learning the content 9-12, earning the credits 9-12, but also hoping that they're learning how to read. So aligning that tier 1 instruction and content and reading materials we're giving students with interventions and having those conversations are important. And then finally, that we're reading in all content areas, that our students are reading. Most important skill that we can ask our students to do in the district is to make sure that they're reading at a rigorous level in all content areas once they reach the secondary level. So that's some of the work that we'll continue on in the district. Questions?
So where are we teaching grammar? Where is the breakdown? Did it simply stop in 9th grade? Is it at Parkview? Because I don't really recall it at Parkview. So where?
So is Ingrid still?
Where is it at?
Oh, no, she had to leave. Our middle school teachers are definitely teaching grammar. They, I think, about 3 years ago, really put a focus on making sure that they were bringing that back in, and I am going to say back in because I think it's a place that disappeared for a period of time. And then, like I said, the 9-12 teachers are worked three of our English teachers worked hard all year long to make sure that we have kind of a homegrown program that we're pretty proud of, that all students will start to receive next year.
Carolyn?
How does a student get to high school and need an intervention? And I'm asking this from, I was a high school teacher and I had a student get to me who very much struggled with reading, and I thought the same thing. I'm like, how were you passed along? It was so sad. Great kid. And he finished high school, but I think, I was gone before he finished, but just how do they do that? How do they get there? And I get sometimes we get the students in high school, they come to us from other districts, that I understand, but how did we fail them?
So we did do a breakdown actually last week as we were preparing for this, just exactly how many students, like when they're joining us, are kids that are still needing intervention at the high school level. Because I think it is really important that we understand how they're reaching us. And so, I don't, do you want to address?
Yeah, it's about 50% or slightly over 50%, depending on the year right now, of kids that have joined our district after elementary that are in that intervention. So for the most part, kids that are with us throughout, and then there's a fractional point in there, probably about a quarter of them that join us from like 2nd through 6th. So a fractional part, that are with us K-12 throughout the system. And it's going to be fascinating to watch to that question too, because all of the children that are benefiting from that science of reading in K-2 right now, they're only in 5th grade right now. So we haven't even seen them get to the high school. So I'm fascinated to see if that data point changes over time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about where we're at.
But otherwise, I would say the kids in our system, that it's a gap that was not addressed, that we didn't realize they weren't learning to decode at an early enough age that we intervened with that. So that's where looking at the data, bringing in all those components that Michelle talked about, extremely important so that there's not gaps in where students are learning to read and that they're learning to read when at the appropriate age level. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Thanks for sticking with us.
Thanks, guys.
Need to back up and go over to consent agenda. I'm looking for approval of the vouchers 140-950 to 141-282 in the amount of $2,650,812.19, and receipts from March 2023 totaling $11,086,184.22. Also looking to approve the school board meetings from March 2023. Any discussion? By consent, it is approved. We're going to move on to Finance Facilities Committee.
I think student learning is first.
Oh, you're still, okay. Student learning.
Okay, on our meeting this month, we went through, we had a presentation on the K-6 social studies pilot, and we are bringing that to as a action item later. The next thing we talked about was the 7 to 12 counseling pilot update, and we're going to discuss that next month again before we bring that to the board. And summer school update, I just thought maybe you had some numbers, because there was a lot of, there's no actual.
Yeah, I put the memo in there. I don't have, I do know that I got updated numbers today, and I think we're at 1,308 students signed up for our summer school.
So it's
Summer Adventures program. So much to be proud of. And if Ben is still in I'm not sure Ben is still in the room, but kudos to him for really growing that summer school program.
That is an amazing number. That's why it isn't on the minutes here. Okay, and then we reviewed some changes for the Neola policy, which we're going to look at again in May. And we had a update on the 4K registration numbers, which are also up.
We're about 30 up from where we were at the same time last year.
And everyone got pretty much their choices that they wanted, and
pretty close to. I mean, especially given the year could have been really bumpy, I think, that way. We felt good about the way that registration ended up going.
And that was it.
All right, thank you. Finance and Facilities Committee?
I'll go over that if you're good. All right. We talked about, let's see, student, teacher, and intern compensation, which is an action item that we'll discuss later. The district's official bank depository is Citizens Bank, and I believe that's an action item for later as well. District investment results, Tom went over a fabulous presentation on that for post-employment benefits. Debt defeasance, we talked about that as well. Tom is going to come to us in May with that on what we're going to do. That money can only be used for paying debt. The budget calendar, that's also coming later today. We're going to talk about that. In order for Tom to get through everything he needs to get through, we talked about approving that calendar for him. Budget assumptions. Do you want to go into more info on that, Tom?
Oh, sorry, Tom. So when we take a look at the calendar that we'll adopt under action items, we will look to ultimately finalize the budget we want to present to the community, which we'll present in July. But at the June school board meeting, we'll need to basically finish our budget work. So the calendar outlines that. In May, I'm going to ask you to adopt assumptions. So basically, it's what's our group guess for enrollment, for increased funding. Obviously, we want to be conservative because we don't want to pretend we're going to have way more money than we actually have. So we want to be smart about how we do that. So we'll do that as a group next meeting. I think Vito and Carolyn, we said our current assumption for student growth has been 0, but we'll look at -50 and +50, and then 3 funding scenarios of +200, +275, and +350, all of which I think are reasonable guesses at this time. So we'll have to pick one FTE, full-time equivalency growth for student third Friday counts, and then we'll have to also guess on what we think we're going to get in funding. Whatever we do, whatever we present to the community in July, I guess I'm saying this mostly for the new school board members, at the annual meeting and budget hearing, our electors will have the chance to come and hear that budget presentation and support it or vote against it, but it's non-binding. It's just for you, it gives you a chance to get the community's input on how we're doing our work. But we'll have to adopt a final budget in October once all the things are known and set the tax levy at that time. But I think, does that answer it there?
Yeah, I just wanted you to say it as eloquently as you did. Thank you. Building and grounds, Andy came in and talked about the mold testing that was done at Big Bend, and those numbers are back down to a good range, which is awesome. He has some vacancies on his team, and he talked about the safety committee that he runs. And that is it.
All right, thank you. Next, we're going to move into action items, appointments, resignations, and retirements.
For this month, we are formally in the start of the hiring season. We have 2 math teachers that we're bringing on board at the high school, Natalie J. Bierce and Jacob Simmons at the high school for math, Emma Holtorf as our district school psychologist, Christine Lefko as our high school business and marketing teacher. Those are the appointments. In terms of resignations, we have, and these are all effective at the end of the year, Kristen Agan, elementary program support coordinator, Kyle Alt, special education teacher at Clarendon, and Cassandra Wesner, 4th grade teacher at Prairie View. And for retirements, we've got Mark Lambrecht, MHS social studies teacher.
I make a motion that we approve.
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion passes. Next up, designate the official newspaper and bank depositories.
Yeah, this is just an annual step that we always take. So we're looking for separate motions, one for an official newspaper where we'll post our public notices when we're required by law to do so. And then we also have to declare who our official bank depositories are. So I'm recommending, and the Finance Committee is supporting, that we have the Waukesha Freeman as our official newspaper. And then we're also looking for the local government investment pool and the Citizens Bank to be our official depositories.
I'll make a motion that we use the Waukesha Freeman as our official newspaper for the 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'll make
All opposed?
Oh, sorry.
All opposed, say no. All right, motion passes.
I'll make a second motion that we also use Citizens Bank and the local government investment pool, LGIP, for our official, for Mukwonago's official depositories for the 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
No.
Motion passes.
We're supposed to have a discussion.
All right, we're moving on to committee structure and board meeting schedule.
Sure. So there are a couple of memos in board docs, and it's my understanding that the school board wanted to have a discussion about the current committee structure that we have. As you know, we have 3 standing committees: student learning, personnel, finance, and facilities. We meet with those committees the first, second, and third Monday, and then we have our full board meeting on the 4th Monday of the month. That's the typical schedule. That is not how all school boards operate. Some school boards, and we have several examples from Waukesha County in the memo, operate without standing committees and instead have 2 full board meetings a month. One board meeting is designated as a committee of the whole, where you do all of your committee work, and then the second full board meeting would be typically what we have now, where you do your action items. So that's that is a format that we have used before with this school board. We tried that a few years ago for a variety of different reasons, and for a variety of reasons we did it for a year and a half roughly, and then we went back to the standing committee structure. Bottom line is that it's really up to this school board, these 9 individuals, on how you would like to operate. If you'd like to try the 2 meetings a month, there are certainly some advantages to that. The most obvious one is right now, many of you are attending 4 meetings a month. This would enable you to go down to 2 Mondays a month, 2 meetings a month. There is no doubt that those meetings are going to be a little longer, but it does free up 2 Mondays a month for those people that are attending the meetings. So I didn't know what kind of discussion you wanted to have about this, what questions you had. I'm able to try to answer them if you'd want. I did speak to Joe Cook about the possibility of the school board moving to a committee of the whole and another full board meeting, 2 full board meetings a month, and he's perfectly fine with that. He and I did discuss if you do a committee of the whole meeting, and let's just pretend it would be on the 2nd Monday of the month, and the full board meeting would be the 4th Monday of the month, that we maybe start a little sooner, possibly 5 p.m. if you are able, and then you have a starting designated time for each committee during that committee of the whole evening. So just theoretically, if we start at 5 o'clock, and let's say we start in May you would have student learning from maybe 5 to 6 on Monday, May 8th. And then from 6:15 to 7:15, you would have finance and facilities. And then 7:30 to 8:30, you would have personnel. And then in June, on the 2nd Monday of the month, you'd rotate that a little bit, and you'd start with finance and facilities for an hour. You would go to personnel for the 2nd hour and student learning for the 3rd hour. And don't quote me, it doesn't have to be an hour, or you can mix it up. It could be an hour and 15 minutes, 45 minutes. But you would have a designated starting time and ending time for each of those committees. And then the directors would be sure to bring their most important items first, and you discuss those first, just in case you don't get them all done. Or you can just do a committee of the whole meeting and plow through the entire agenda for each committee. We did that last time. That did get a little lengthy. Erica was here, Cherry was here at that time, and those meetings did tend to be a little lengthy. And sometimes they got so lengthy that we would say, we'll do finance and facilities from 6 to 7 or 5:30 to 7 on the fourth Monday of the month. We would have to push that stuff back to the full board meeting. So it's really what you prefer. If you want to try that, somebody, when we did new board member orientation last week, someone had asked, I think maybe Crosby, did you ask, if you start with that process, do you have to keep it? No. You could start it, try it for 6 months, reassess, and then decide if you want to continue or go back to the current committee structure. And some districts, as you can see from the memo, do both. They have committee of the whole, full board meeting, and some standing committee meetings. So you can even have more meetings a month.
Erica?
So I just want to share some thoughts, insight, pros and cons. Committee of the whole was on average about 4 hours long. So by the time we hit about 11:15, 11:30, people are getting frustrated and wanted to go home because they had to work in the morning. The benefit of it was that everybody, well, it's a benefit, a pro and a con, I think. Everybody was involved in the discussion and all of the things. That just meant that there were a lot of questions, 9 board members asking detailed questions of learning committee that made it lengthy rather than the committee structure being able to go through those things. So that made it longer. It also means that you have to read in depth all of the committees. When you come to committee of whole, you have to be prepared for all of them. So it was also hard if people didn't read them all, and now we're listening to everybody asking questions that were in the packet, and it just makes the night go a lot longer because they weren't able to dedicate time to just one committee structure. That being said, it was also beneficial to have everybody in the room for all the discussion. Everybody knew what was going on. So feedback for committee of the whole, I'm fine doing whatever. I just thought I would share some background. I also wanted to say I was the first person not for the live streaming of the committees, but I don't know if you guys have been looking at the finance live stream. It gets a decent amount of views. People that aren't able to attend are liking to see the committee structure, so I guess my preference, if we're talking about preferences, would be to stay with the committees but live stream them all. And then as board members not on the committee, no need to attend, but listen in. You get the discussion, you get the information, listen into the live stream, but then you're not here potentially causing any sort of open meeting records or quorum issues. That would be my preference if we're talking preferences, but I think either works fine. If we can get a high schooler to come and live stream the other 2 committees.
I think we probably can, and I should note also that if you go to 2 meetings a month, committee of the whole and a full board meeting, then we would live stream both of those.
I'd like to make a motion that we go to committee of the whole and starting the first Monday of the month and starting at 5 p.m. and starting with one committee, second committee starting at 6:15, and the next committee starting at 7:30.
I would second that if I could make an amendment to the second Monday, only because I think we need to give our administrators a little bit more time to prepare their information to go from instead of the 4th to the 1st. So like full board on the 4th and then committee of the whole on the 1st. I think you need to give them a week in between. So if we did it, committee of the whole on the 2nd, full board on the 4th, if you are interested in that amendment, I would second that, but I think they need more time.
That would be our preference as well.
All right.
I'll second the amendment.
Any discussion on the amendment?
Can we have an open conversation? Just go back and forth. I was wondering if anybody else is against doing the committee of the whole. I'd like hearing Erica's position on it, and I really want to hear anybody else's because I want to get as much information as possible. And I'm happy to say I'm one of the for it, and it's for different reasons. So if there's anybody else that would be against it, I just want to hear what they got to say.
Cherry?
It does get to be long, I too don't, I mean, if you want to try it again, but I would ask that we would move it to 5:30 because there are people who work until 5. And I think that asking them to be here at 5 is kind of, and asking if we want community members to come in, I think most people wouldn't, a 5 o'clock start date would be a start time. And I really would go to 6, but I'm willing to compromise with 5:30 and try it that way. But I mean, I think it's pretty well known that if we want people to come, we have to make it a time that they can get here.
Anybody want discussion on that?
I like that idea as well, doing the 5:30.
What about Tom Carhauser, Stephanie, Christine, Stephen? Two nights a month versus 4. Any opinion?
So the directors only go to one meeting a month, one committee, and then they come to the full board meeting. But it's the board members and the superintendent that go to all 4. So I don't want to speak for Joe, but I will. He's good with the 2 meetings a month.
So I'll put mine out there as to why the reason I like the idea is that the potential for somebody to be silenced and be pushed off for weeks and not being able to answer their questions is there. And I don't think anybody was going to do it here. I don't think we have ever had an issue or ever being a problem, but I would just like to take it off the table. If we were to get a committee that decides that they don't like something or they want to stop the full board from voting on something, they have that opportunity, and by just doing it with the 3 people, also a committee chair has the opportunity to silence people on the other people on the board by not letting, if we're supposed to be sitting out in the gallery, that we can't talk. If somebody just so decided, if they just wanted to be a jerk and be like, nope, I'm not going to let you talk because I don't care, then you have to wait until the full board meeting, which means you don't get your questions answered right away. Everybody doesn't get to hear your questions get answered. They have to rebut them or have any dialogue or anything like that. So from my perspective, I like the idea just because it opens it up for everybody. And yes, it is a little bit longer, but it does drop it down to 2 days instead of 4. So being able to keep everything open for everybody to be able to talk is more important to me than that. So that's my position for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other discussion? I think we need to address Jerry's amendment. 5:30 start time.
I make a motion to start at, is that what we're supposed to do here? Okay, I'll make a motion that we started at 5:30.
Well, we don't have a voted on.
Well, it was an amendment
It's an
that
amendment,
we
so we go through
had
the
that
amendments.
amendment, and now we're,
We need to vote on the amendment, that amendment first.
So Erica has an amendment for moving from the first Monday of the month to the second Monday of the month.
Which
So,
she seconded.
and then Crosby seconded it. So you should vote on that if the discussion is done on the second Monday of the month. If you could vote on that, then you can take another amendment for the time.
All right. My understanding was the second amendment always has to go first and it works its way down. Robert's rules. Second amendment, you work on that and you work your way down.
You mean backwards?
Backwards, yes. If there's a second amendment, you clear that and then you go to the amendment.
I don't.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't
Go ahead.
matter.
That's fine.
All right. So
We
going
got
to
to get a
Jerry's
second
motion.
on Cherry's amendment, though.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and second. All in favor of starting at 5:30, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right, we're looking for a motion to move it to the second Monday of every month. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion passes. So we are going to start at 5:30 every second Monday of the month for our meetings, and then we also need to take a vote on going to meeting of the whole. Any other further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We are going to the committee of the whole, every second Monday of the month, starting at 5:30.
Now I'm gonna throw a monkey wrench in your plans here. So, May will go committee of the whole on May 8th, and fourth Monday is May 22nd for the regular school board meeting. June 12 and June 26 it works for the month of June, but then in July we hit a speed bump here. July we have a little different schedule, so I think what we'll be asking for is that we'll have our school board meeting on the 5th Monday of the month, which is the night of the annual meeting, and that you guys had already approved. So we're asking, and talked to Joe about this, he'd like to have the committee of the whole on the 24th. So it would be the 4th.
Talking about June?
I'm sorry, July. Yep.
Why not the 3rd?
So he's going to be on vacation. Didn't want to have to say it.
I like Joe. I'll go with that.
So.
The committee of the whole would be July 24th. The full meeting would be July 31st.
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
Is there any downside to the timeline in between that Erica brought up?
No, we'll be good with that. Or they'll be good with that.
Will you send out an updated schedule with any weird nuances if you come up against
Absolutely.
Holidays or anything else?
Yep.
Okay.
So, and as you know, we do have some other months like December where we will meet on the 2nd and the 3rd Monday, or you guys will meet on the 2nd and 3rd Monday.
Yeah,
because of Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, we'll send an updated version.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Will that get updated on the website too?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, next on the agenda is school board delegates to CISA and to WASB.
Oh, committee structure was on there.
Is that?
No, sorry. We just did that. Because now we don't have committees.
Oh. Okay. That's right. The whole.
So we are looking to nominate a representative to go to CISA.
I'd like to nominate Jake.
Sorry, new board members always get thrown under the bus. I second.
That's the one in Pewaukee, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and so that will be on Tuesday, May 16 at 5:30 p.m.
They got me.
We had it last year.
Like this is hazing.
It is.
Do I have to accept that? I have to accept that?
No, you just have to get just there. You're hired, that's it.
Have to make sure you don't get caught like that, okay?
Do we have a second on that?
I think Crosby
Wait.
lucky because.
Oh, I did
the
already.
two
Erica
of you
seconded
didn't
it.
get it
Perfect.
'cause-
He said next anyways.
A motion is a second to nominate Jake. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
I abstain.
I will make a motion to appoint Crosby as our WASB delegate assembly.
I second.
Even though I do really like doing it, I think you'll enjoy it.
I was sort of prepared for this.
Good. I'm glad.
Any discussion?
Hopefully they don't run out of time like they did this year.
All in favor of Crosby, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
All opposed, say no.
And Crosby, you see that's on Wednesday, January 17.
Yes.
Gail will find something for you, don't worry.
All right, K-6 Social Studies Resource Purchase.
Okay, so Michelle and I are back with you to make a proposal for our first through sixth grade, actually. Social studies adoption, we did do a full presentation to the Student Learning Committee that I'm hopeful that the rest of you were able to look at the slides for at our earlier meeting in April that outlined the process that we followed, including our research year and our pilot year. We're bringing forth two recommendations tonight. One would be to adopt McGraw-Hill Impact for our 1-5 resource, and to do Cengage National Geographic for our 6th grade resource. That actually matches what our 7th and 8th grade teachers adopted. So I like the fact that we are moving towards a 6-8 structure in our resources too, which is nice. We are holding one more month on kindergarten because kindergarten decided to go a different direction. They didn't love the idea, nor did we, of our little kindergartners having textbooks for social studies. And so they actually went with Michelle recently to Custom Solutions, which is a huge book warehouse basically, took our curriculum and lined up little storybooks that align with our standards, and we've ordered a copy of each of those for you guys to preview before we would do that. But I think a great decision by our kindergarten team. And so we're looking for the approval for McGraw-Hill Impact, Cengage National Geographic. We did, in between when we met with the Student Learning Committee, and tonight we did have a community viewing night. We had about 12 parents sign up to come. We had 3 come that evening. We were here for a couple of hours, met with the 3 parents who came, answered any questions they have. They looked over what they wanted to of the materials, expressed any concerns that they had, and they were all there because they had concerns one way or another. All 3 parents did leave with questions answered and feeling very good about the resource, I would say. So the purchase would be $270,741.64. That's for an 8-year license. We did budget $300,000 for this purchase, and so we will still be under budget, I believe, even with the kindergarten purchase being there. School board members did take books home from Student Learning Committee, and so if you have any questions before the vote, we can answer them now.
Make a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion?
How long will that curriculum last? I know you said it's an 8-year license, but is that something that then at the end of 8 years, if we choose to renew with whatever the newest version they have is, it would be another
So we're running into more and more of a struggle with a 10-year curriculum cycle that we're going to need to talk about sooner rather than later. Probably in the next year, you're going to see me back with you at some point talking about that 10-year curriculum cycle. But with online resources and things, most companies will only do 8 years. And so honestly, we'll have to see at the end of that 8 years, if we're still in a 10-year curriculum cycle, what that looks like, or that we're going to need to really look at our curriculum cycles.
Any other discussion? We have a motion on the table to pass the social studies resource purchase for $270,741.64. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next up, student teacher intern compensation proposal.
All right, during finance and facilities this month, we had an opportunity to take a look at potentially compensating student teachers and increasing the compensation for interns, with the idea being that we are facing smaller hiring pools than we have in the past. And it continues to be a challenge to find folks to be in our classrooms and to retain them. And so we do bring on a good number of student teachers each year, and we do bring them on board as full-time staff when they come to the top of the hiring pool and the interview process. So one of the things that, having reached out to local districts, is that we do believe there is an opportunity to build a pipeline from the student teaching / intern experience and bring them into the classroom and incentivize doing so. With interns, they currently receive a $4,500 stipend with an additional $500 to cover some professional development. What would be new is providing some funds to give some funds to student teachers, with the idea being that we would be looking at like $2,000 for student teachers over the course of their experience, and then increasing that to $6,500 for interns. Just coming out of last committee meeting, there were some questions as to what the internship is, and basically the internship and student teaching are two ways to go towards your license. You have to do one or the other. You don't have to do both. But with the intern process, is those are considered to be pre-service educators that are particularly promising. And that's why they're getting that opportunity to go for an intern license. The difference between a student teacher and an intern is, again, that the intern is compensated and it comes with a license, as well as just kind of having a high level of regard in terms of being able to provide that kind of service. Now, providing a little bit of additional detail as to what an internship is and really what it is not. Basically, it allows for the intern to teach half the day. It isn't going to solve any kind of staffing issues in the short term. However, interns do have the potential to be valuable staff members coming on board. And so we went through a couple of scenarios to kind of outline that, but the general idea is that right now, based on what our local districts are doing, they are not providing compensation at this time to student teachers. They're sticking with that $4,500 for their interns. And so with that being said, that has the potential to be an opportunity for us to take a look at this pool, and when there's a specific forecasted need, to be able to potentially bring them a little bit of additional funds to encourage them to stick with us, and then ideally at the end of their experience become a licensed teacher with us. And so that's the proposal, is that student teachers would be again, when it's a specific forecasted need, student teachers would get $2,000 for their experience, and that we would look to up to $2,000, but then up to $6,500 for interns, if again we have a specific forecasted need. And so just looking to see what the board's thought is on that this evening.
I'd like to make a motion that we do not move forward with this proposal.
I second it.
Any discussion? Carolyn?
After a lot of thought on this, I think, I keep thinking at the amount of student teachers that we have and the pay gap that we have with our current staff. And if we do have any money, I'd rather give that money to our current staff and use that as a retention bonus or subs, whatever we need to do to retain people that are currently doing for us and teaching for our community. And I think as a student teacher that was working with us, to know that we could give back at the end of the year if we have anything, that's what we should be doing with that money versus giving it to somebody who may just go to a different district because mom and dad live over there.
Understood. Very reasonable perspective in that regard. There are downsides plus sides to this. Yeah. So it's kind of new territory.
Yeah.
Couldn't we leave that up to management to say if we really have a need that we can't fill a teacher, maybe we'd have to make an exception once in a while to hopefully guarantee a hard to fill spot?
There's really two pieces to it. Is really there does have to be something that we're forecasting. It isn't going to just be willy-nilly, let's just award these funds. But we have to have kind of the two routes are a forecasted need, and secondly, something that we might struggle to fill. And so those are the two kind of criteria in this circumstance. So again, it would be an opportunity that would give us some flexibility in those circumstances. So again, the proposal is structured to be fairly narrow in this regard.
Cherry?
Well, after listening to the committee and listening to you today and reading our report, we have, I don't think student teachers get to pick where they go. I think they're assigned. Is that correct?
No, individual universities might be a little bit different, but I've certainly seen requests where folks are looking like, I specifically would like to come to a specific district. However, I could take a look into what level of flexibility exists in that regard.
So that being said, I mean, if that is true, then we would be just paying student teachers who were assigned here, so they just got lucky because they got to Mukwonago, and we pay, and absolutely no one else pays. In any of the examples or people you've said, no one else is doing this. And then thirdly, we are already, if we get interns, which are the 50%, we are compensating them. This was
$4,500.
Right.
Yes.
So this is just increasing that, and so I think they're already just expecting that, and So I just don't feel that there is warranted that this is going to really improve our chances of getting any extra qualified personnel.
Crosby?
Have we had an issue with extending offers to student teachers or interns who consistently turn us down? Like, has that been a problem?
Last year, we had, I believe it was 4 or 5 people that declined an offer. This year, we've had one that declined, and then formally after getting their offer, and then we had another one that has declined as well. I wouldn't say it's necessarily interns and student teachers, but rather, again, that statement of, hey, you know, we've got this need, we're looking at this, and it's not something, it would be targeted. I mean, it would be a highly targeted thing, and again, generating that goodwill that could be of value. Now, again, there are pluses and negatives to this particular proposal. There are some that might say, well, gosh darn it, you know, I'm working hard and I'd like to get a position too, but this is particularly for forecasted needs in tough to fill areas. That's really what this proposal is all about. And so to be able to get that word out to that person that, hey, we're looking to retain you because we do know with a high degree of likelihood that we're gonna need you and you're gonna be hard to find. So those were really the 2 lines of thinking on this.
Dale?
Being that I am a teacher, I've had students.
Gail, speaking of
Thank you. Okay, new to me. I've had student teachers and interns, and they do get to like pick 3 places they would like to get their experience. Most of the colleges do provide that opportunity, and then they do their best to match them to where they want to practice teaching. And so lots of times with the ones I've had, they really are thinking of where they would, you know, they hear things about a school and they'd like to get into that district, and they will try to do it for real specific reasons with whatever their major is, and so they do have that opportunity to not just be assigned to a spot, but have some choice in it. And I guess I do see it as if it's a narrow selection, the teachers coming in also want stability in their life. So if they know that there's somebody highly, you know, like they're sought because they have a match of special ed and some sport or something, then that's going to help them. That drives them to do everything they can to want to be there, because then they're like, okay, I'm not going to have to keep going through this process. I'll be in a place that I want to be, and I can maybe get an apartment, you know, like they're looking to do more of that, the teachers in these more recent years. So that would just be my experience within the last like 5 years or so with, and past, but I've seen more eagerness for them to want to be where they could maybe settle in a community they like. So I do see a plus to keeping it that narrow range and being selective.
Vito?
Sean, is it appropriate to ask your opinion on this?
Sure.
What do you think?
So right now, we are definitely facing a teacher shortage. And so we are looking for a variety of different creative ways to attract people to this profession. And if we can convince some of our strong student teachers that they are welcome and valued here in the district and they stay here and teach with us, I think it can be a positive. It is a small investment to hopefully attract some high-quality individuals into the teaching profession in Mukwonago Area School District.
I have a
Cherry?
question. So what would be the difference of doing that or giving them a stipend for coming with us after student teaching here? And then the other question I have is, you said this is this narrow thing, so what you're saying is not every student teacher would get paid, only certain ones?
This would be based off of forecasted needs. This would be based off of high-need licenses. Those would be the 2 primary considerations. Yes?
Crosby?
So over the next, let's say, 2 to 3 school years, how many positions are we considering targeting for this over the, if it's forecasted? So how many are we looking at over the next couple years?
What I would say is that if we were in a different time, if we were, say, maybe 15 years ago, I would probably be able to give a really good answer to that question. However, the hiring reality right now is that people are much more fluid in moving around than they've ever been in the past. We see folks that come and go. And so it's hard for me to do that. In the past, I probably would be able to do that for you. But again, right now, seniority does not easily exist right now. I mean, it's just not as much of a factor. And so people are paying attention to offers. They are paying attention to salary offerings, and they're making decisions based on that. And so it's hard to forecast, but again, it's a limited group, but it allows us to be nimble. It allows us to be flexible in line of, particularly, you know, we have a spring internship or student teaching opportunity that might marry up with someone's announcement for retirement or something along those lines, or perhaps we're seeing a program expand. Again, this would be carefully considered. We wouldn't just apply these funds without some thought. We would want to consider with a reasonable level of assurance that we aren't just applying the funds, but that it's going to yield a certified staff member at the back end of it. And again, we're looking at $2,000. If it turns out that person is not somebody that we would like to retain, I mean, we retain the right to choose. But we are making a calculated effort to get some folks interested based on things that we perceive might be coming down the way.
Go ahead, Craig.
So Stephen, the extra couple $1,000, in the long run when other districts are starting at $52,000 or $53,000 and we're at 48, does that really matter? Should we, I mean, long term, do we have to look at upping the base pay, correct?
Yep, base pay is always going to be under consideration. We're always going to have to look at that. Right now, groups that command a premium are special ed teachers, tech ed teachers, and advanced mathematics and science. Those are the areas that we have to be focused on. I would also say that in the majority of cases for those types of skill sets, and I should also add computer science, is that we would have to consider that our peers are going to pay a lot of money. Even for a brand new teacher, they're going to make offers because having a comprehensive program costs money. And when there's a limited number of computer science, family consumer ed, those sorts of folks coming out each year, it is something that is paid very, very close attention to across the state. We are looking to retain those folks, and so when we're looking at potentially offering a couple grand to meet that specific narrow need, we also probably are looking at a contract that's going to carry a premium. And we're going to be forced to by the hiring market, by our competing districts. That's just what we're starting to see. People are getting offers. We're seeing folks that we're giving calls to folks and making offers, and they're still interviewing. And that's just the reality that we're facing today.
Is it something that could be like a pilot? And, you know, then we could
Sure.
reevaluate.
Absolutely. Yes.
And just see if it did make a difference or not.
Right, yeah. I would say that would be something, absolutely. This is new territory. It would be completely reasonable to bring this back in those instances when the board, you know, so that you can see how it's working. I don't necessarily know that we're going to have a lot of people participating in this. However, this does give us the flexibility to make a unique offer and to do something different than what our peers are doing. We would be a first mover in this space.
Vito?
What would you recommend a sunset date be? How many years do you think we need to do this for before so we can make a good? Is this a 3-year thing, a 5-year thing? How long you need the tool to figure out if it works?
I would say that what I would do coming out of this conversation is to build this conversation as to how this particular proposal is working with each strategic plan update, and so that the board would be able to make a determination as we go, and just to see how it goes. Because again, it's hard to know specifically a time frame, but 3 to 5 years should be a completely adequate amount of time to be able to determine if it's working. I think.
Jake?
I just wonder if we have positions that are forecasted to be hard to fill, wouldn't it just make more sense to use that money for a sign-on bonus for whoever wants to come here on a permanent basis? I just struggle to understand how, you know, the 4 or 5 people that we, I guess, wanted to stay that left, how would having this money, I guess, in their pocket already and having the same options in front of them from that point forward, I struggle to see how that would make much of a difference.
Sure.
I just think the money may be more useful if it's used for people, to incentivize people to truly stay.
Sign-on bonuses would certainly be an area that we could take a look at. That is something that we could examine. What I would say is perhaps sign-on bonuses probably could be applied in a more general sense. What I'm proposing is a little bit more narrow than that, but perhaps if some preliminary work with trying to forecast and fill specific needs, if we need to pour more effort on, that would not be necessarily a bad second step. Again, the whole kind of process around this proposal is just to simply keep something very limited, and again, we would want to apply some pretty strong considerations around sign-on bonuses, because these folks are already coming in and they're going to get a good contract. They're going to get more than what their years of experience would suggest. They're already going to command a higher salary by virtue of the work that they do. Again, when we work on a comprehensive program at a high school and secondary level, we have to pay for it. For instance, a tech ed teacher who could be working in a shop getting overtime, that's something that we're going to do, but they're already going to get a premium when they get hired, if that makes sense. We're already going to be hearing, what did Pewaukee offer? What did Oconomowoc offer? What did Muskego Norway offer? We're going to hear that, and that's going to play into the determination of what their salary is. So that's kind of how we account for those types of hires.
Erica?
So like Sean mentioned, we're facing a lot of teacher shortages, especially in these high need areas. In the last couple of years, this year especially, like right as we're heading up to the beginning of the school year, we're still frantically looking for some of these high paid, these niche markets, and then we end up having to pay a lot more to get them at the last second. That if we could actually identify somebody a year in advance and kind of give them a commitment like, hey, we value you, we hope you stay, here's a stipend, I think it's worth a try for a little bit. We can't risk not filling positions, and if this is a tool for $2,000 for a couple people potentially, I think it's worth a pilot. I definitely think it's worth trying for a couple years.
Carolyn?
I think kind of what Jake was saying, the thought that we're going to pay this person to come on, they're going to look at all of these salaries at all of these different places anyway, because they're not going to be just blinded by Mukwonago when they see they could make $20,000 more at Hamilton. They're going to look at that. That base pay that we're going to offer isn't changing, even though they got a couple grand from us earlier in the year that they've already blown. Wouldn't it make sense to take that $2,000 and say, we loved you, you were great, sign on with us. Oh, look, we have an extra $2,000 because we didn't just blow it, now we want to make you the offer. Stay with us.
That's not how it's going to work. $2,000 on a one-time thing as opposed to $2,000 every year, we're just not going to do that. The reality of the situation is what we'd be doing here is we'd be taking a tool away from him in a unbelievably difficult labor market, which is a bad idea. It is not a good idea when he's struggling to find people and he signs on to it. And every one of us knows that it's not easy to find people. It is a very small tool that might do something good, that might just it might save something. It's amazing how small something can be that can just lure somebody in. And for something that, if he's just doing it for a few years, why wouldn't we try it? Why would we go, nope, harder for you. We're not willing to try anything outside the box. It just doesn't, I can't for the life of me understand why anybody would be against trying something to see if it works. We're not talking about offering people $50,000. We're talking a few $1,000s. If he's like, yeah, nobody bid, didn't do anything, never worked. All right, cool. Lesson learned. Got it. It just doesn't. I can't. We're getting very granular in taking a tool away, and I don't know if I like that.
I like to call the question.
Cherry?
I'd like to call the question.
Yes? You'd like to call a question?
So,
We need to vote.
What's that?
but you need a second
Yes.
if you're going to call
I
the question.
seconded it, and
Who called it to question? You need a second on your call to question.
I second.
Made a motion to not move forward, and Sherry.
I seconded it, and I want to.
I know, but I'm saying if you're calling it into the question, the call needs a second as well.
Second.
Okay, so that means argument is done, we can't talk about it anymore, but it does require a 3/4 vote instead of a majority. Can I clarify one thing?
Yes.
So the motion on the table that I'm hearing is to say no, not to do it. So if you vote yes, you're saying no.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right.
Bonus levels.
To be clear, the motion is Carolyn wants to kill the proposal, so if you're, correct? I'm just being
Sorry.
crystal clear.
Murder it with a knife.
So all in favor of Carolyn's motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
No.
No. Noes have it. Now I think we need to take a vote.
That's it.
Yes.
But I changed my mind.
That's why we talk, Tom.
That's why you need to raise your hand. And so all the no's is everybody else?
Yeah.
Yes. I'd like to make a motion, we move forward with the proposal as he stated with a 3-year sunset to be brought up again.
I will second.
Any discussion?
Do we have a cap as to how much money can be put towards this program?
I would suggest maybe $10,000. That would be 5 people.
Is that for student teachers and for interns?
Yes,
Okay.
because interns already get 4,500.
Right.
And so the increase that was suggested up to 65, that would be 10,000 would be 5 people.
Okay. Is that over the course of 3, as you say, 3 years?
I would say, if
Per
we're
year?
going to do it, I would say per year. But
So 10,000 per year?
we would need an amendment on that, I would think, right?
It was in your motion.
Oh.
So any other discussion?
To cap it at 10,000, was it
Yes.
the motion?
If that
Yeah, you
got
just
amended.
keep going.
Ask me if my second is friendly. Restate it.
Is my second friendly? I don't even remember.
You made a motion.
Make a motion that we move forward with the plan as stated with a
3 years?
with a 3-year sunset, not to exceed $10,000 per year.
I will still second that.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
Motion passes. All right, next up is the budget calendar approval.
Do you guys want to pass that budget calendar?
Yes.
All in favor?
Right.
Let's talk about it.
I make
I'd like
the
to make a motion.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion passes. All right, moving on to unfinished business. Superintendent report.
Sure, I just want to make sure that everybody remembers that we have another community focus group meeting coming up in 2 nights. And so Wednesday, April 26th, will be at Big Bend Elementary. And that meeting starts at 6 p.m. We'll be offering tours of Big Bend at 5:30 p.m. And we want to thank everyone who came out to the Parkview Middle School meeting 2 weeks ago. We really had a wonderful turnout. Tom did a really nice job with the presentation, and along with others like Stephanie and Luke. And we had lots of good questions and lots of good feedback. So we're looking forward to another productive meeting on Wednesday at Big Bend. A few other things. I'll just move into my recognition report right away, if that's all right with you guys. First, I want to thank our student reps. This isn't their last meeting. This is their second to last meeting. May will be their last meeting. But they're both outstanding students, and they do have AP exams coming up. I met with Diego earlier today to review the agenda, and he has 5 AP exams. And Madeline, how many do you have?
I've got 4.
4. So these are outstanding students, and some of you, if you can just think back to your senior year and high school, and were you taking 5 AP classes your senior year? I know I wasn't.
I was not that crazy.
So,
Good for you guys.
they're not only outstanding students, but they're also actively involved in many, many things. And I just wanted to give them a chance to let us know where they're going to school next year. So Madeline, you want to start? Or Diego, whoever wants to go first, I don't care.
I can start. I'm going to Beloit College next year. I don't have a set major minor sort of plan yet, but I'm really interested in international relations. They have a great program there. They also have a major program called Critical Race Identities that sounds very interesting, and I would really love to minor in anthropology. They have an amazing program, and it's kind of one of those things that I really love to do. So.
And I will be attending Yale University, and I will most likely be studying economics. That's all I got.
You guys have been a great asset. Thank you so much
Really.
for your time.
Really super proud of all of our student reps, but these 2 have been outstanding, so we should be,
Good job. you
Yeah.
guys.
yeah, so.
Diego, is that like Yale, Michigan? Where's
So if you guys, if you need to head out, feel free at any time. So, but you're welcome to stay though as well. A couple other things I want to recognize. Our student of the month for Kiwanis Student of the Month for April was Lauren Jacob, and you can see her accolades, accomplishments, activities, 4.0, 13 AP classes, Key Club, Model UN, German Club, Musical, National Honor Society. So another outstanding student. I want to make sure that I mention the MHS First Robotics team. So I don't know if you guys got a chance to watch any of the national world competition this past weekend. They made it to the semifinals, and that's an outstanding result. Really an impressive showing in Houston. They ended up ranked, and I have to make sure I have this correct. They ended up 47, 13, and 1. They're the 9th ranked team in the country, and that's out of 2,687 teams. They're the 10th ranked team in the world out of 3,286 teams, number 1 in Wisconsin. They will be here at the end of May to be formally recognized by the school board. And then congrats, as mentioned earlier, to Eagleville Elementary Charter School for getting recognized by the United States Department of Education. Green Ribbon School. They'll also be here in May to be recognized. And there will be goats. So we talked about that at the school board orientation at the end of May. They will have a herd of 60 to 70 goats. No, not here. At Eagleville, eating the buckthorn and other invasive species in our school forest.
Nice.
So Colleen announced that at the school assembly today. It was really a cool moment. The kids were super excited.
Can you bring him in here?
Can I ask who's paying for those? Because I looked into getting those things.
And I think that's the PTO, or PTG.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. And then want to make sure we recognize the Mukwonago High School Wrestling Program, Classic 8 Conference Sportsmanship Award for the winter sports season. And then also Emily Wagner, who's our building manager at Mukwonago High School. Big job at MHS, being the building manager there. That's a tough job. And she's being recognized by the Wisconsin Association of School Business Officials for completing her facilities manager certification program. So congrats to her, and she's done an excellent job at MHS, so we want to thank her for her efforts. And that's all I have.
All right, next up, President's Report. I would like to table this and give our new school board members some time to get on the WASB website. There's some great training videos on there, and they can go through their orientation with WASB. So next up is legislative correspondence recognition report.
Yeah, that's what I just did, Dale, so
perfect.
we're good.
All right, any other citizens' comments? Nope. Now we're going to move into executive session.
I will make a motion that we move into executive session.
I'll second.
Oh,
Discussion?